orientation at one time before. But...
That's right. So as we kick on here, I'm Dr. Paul. This is Bridges Live, and a lot of the things I do is to bring information, understanding, and action. And of course, I bring my amazing guest on so we could talk about the things that we love so dearly. And please, Miss Leah Mills, introduce yourself to the people that watch the show, listen to the show, like the show, or just pretty much flip off the show. I don't know what people do, but introduce yourself, please.
Well, I am Leah Mills Chapman. I'm a mental health professional or a clinical therapist, as many may like to call it. And I pretty much focus with a specialization in trauma. I have 2 degrees from the University of Michigan, one in psychology and African American studies, and the other in social work. And I've spent pretty much majority of my time within the profession working with marginalized populations such as substance abuse individuals that are, addicted to substances, working with juveniles in high secure facilities, working along with court systems. And I currently, my day job, I put it as, I work in community mental health. In addition to that, I also have my own practice called Intervene, LLC, where I consult and I train various systems and corporations, and I still, of course, my passion is working with family systems. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, that's easy done, and I'm letting people know if they have any questions or anything they want to do on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or any of these things, they can ask a question. But here's the thing: I do a mental health Mondays, and we talked about this off air. But I do a mental health Mondays every Monday. And there's never enough time to always talk about so many things people are feeling emotionally, physically in their lives during this pandemic. Mm-hmm. What is some of the things that you're seeing that you want to highlight? Because this is not the first. This is the first, but won't be the last. But what are some of the things you just want to highlight as this season progresses? As we are progressing, so yes, what do you want? What is it that you're seeing that you're like, if we just let's talk about this. So that's really what I want to do today.
Okay. So what I would say that really stands out with me, and you don't hear it much, right? When you hear mental health professionals talking right now on this platform, you hear a lot of, depression.
Yeah.
Right now, definitely with the holiday blues. Mm-hmm. We hear a lot with grief and loss, because definitely within the African American community, and you'll hear me focus a lot on that just because, like I said, my studies have taken me down that path, along with being just a Black woman, and looking at a lot of the salient issues that have transpired over this pandemic, right? I would say that, we see a lot of individuals speaking about grief and loss.
Right.
But the one thing that we're really not talking about is the mind control aspect.
Wait a minute. You've missed my shows.
But see, you shouldn't let me free fall.
Well, but no, because when you were going down the litany, I call it the regular ruler of health. That's what I do. And my heart started beating so fast because I'm like, you're going to talk about the mind and the mental. So please, go ahead, girl.
Yeah. So, again, looking at the media, we know that the media has a significant level of influence on the mind. Mm-hmm. And so with this pandemic and with the fear that has been infused with the media, we find that so many people are sinking into lows, right, that they probably never would have, simply because they are, I would say, vegging out, right? There's an extreme amount of consumption of the media, and we don't realize how it actually influences how we think, how we respond and behave. So, for instance, there was no reason on the face of this earth that everybody should have been running out buying Charmin toilet paper.
Thank you. But they did that on purpose. Let me ask you this, and I'm gonna hit you. You know what? I love people, life, and all of it. The condition of human studies and how we are just an incredible people on this planet. But people don't understand that there's certain things that has been done in the science of control that puts you into the cages that are formatting for you, and you're walking in like cattle. And because we're so traumatized by our own life, by our own history of life, by the things that we don't see, the constructs that are developed to align us, to keep us down.
Yeah, the social constructs are real, right? Everything is done by design. Nothing is done just by happenstance, right? There is someone or some people that are advising the outcomes of certain, right, individuals. And so when I look at the pandemic, right, and I look at, again, you know, I mentioned the Charmin example is because behavioral conditioning, it's that at its best, like at its height. I often tell people that we're a part of a social experiment.
Always. That
I don't believe went to the IRB or the Institutional Review Board, right? I didn't sign my name.
Right.
To consent, right, to any of this. But yet and still, right, the power has been taken from us, and the media has been used to infuse certain imagery into our minds that will make us do. We don't understand the power of the media. I know that the CDC had put a couple of things out, and I know, you know, on one end, government says, hey, we're going to cut the CDC out of this picture. But the CDC at one point had said, you know, limit the amount of media intake. They didn't tell you why,
right,
but they told you to do it.
Yep.
Right?
I catch it. I caught it.
Yeah.
And that's why the person that's leaving said, "Oh, we need to cut them out, because now if they start to question, keep going."
Yeah. So you know, the CDC didn't necessarily tell us why that we needed to limit this consumption, but they knew that there was a detrimental effect to say, right, do not take so much of this into your psyche, right? And so when we look at certain things such as the Bible of, right, psychology, the DSM-5, and we look at PTSD, which is trauma, and we look at kind of like what the criterion is or the diagnostics for that, it says that you cannot be traumatized by viewing the media. Stop. That is not factual.
That's not true.
So that goes back to who are the people in the power position that's able, again, we're talking about power and control.
Right.
That's able to tell us how we should be, what validates what we feel, what we do and what we don't do based upon how the media is influencing. So now they make us feel like we don't know what we talking about, what we feeling. We don't know if they validate us or not. And so we're finding that we're in this crisis today emotionally, just under the guise of whether or not we are valid in feeling what we feel. And so that's what the media does. It allows you to either say, you know, hey, this is factual in what you're feeling, continue to move in this direction. No, this is not factual, do not move in that direction.
You know, Edward Bernays, and most people who don't even know who he is, was a scientist who knew that you can control people by the thoughts of how they are receiving them. Darwinism did the same thing when he was studying the animals, and that's why so many people went into the Darwinian theory. There has been institutes that has primarily did the studies on human condition controls that the federal government, our federal government, and the world government has spent billions on the how to.
You got it.
And we have been used not only as experiments, but as tools to do their bidding.
You got it.
The question I have for you is, why are blacks so much more affected?
You're taking me there. Oh my goodness, you are taking me there. I have a theory, and
that's why I asked.
Hey, I have a theory that one day again, I hope to publish. Hasn't really been talked about quite a bit, but since you're taking me there, when I worked in juvenile justice, right, I worked in a high secure facility. It was 99.9% young black men that were impoverished, and it would come time for dinner, right? It could be breakfast, lunch, whatever, mealtime, chow time, as they would call it.
Ring the bell.
There you go, Pavlov's dog.
Right.
Okay? So the plate would hit the table, right? As soon as the plate would hit the table, there was this one particular young man that would literally almost dive and covet that particular plate, right? And so I began to watch this behavior like time and time and time again. And in my mind, I said, you know what? There's a starvation theory that, and this is what I call it, my starvation theory, that has black people that have been starved for so long with being able to have access to what they see yet again on the media or in their, not their immediate environment, but let's say just directly across the street, right? So the neglect of social systems of giving black people what exactly they need, what they do is they house them in certain spaces, and then they begin, right, to see what their behaviors are like. So now, after studying these, and I call them, right, I had them looking at a movie called Animal for a reason.
Right.
When they begin to study the behaviors, now they know that when they loose them, that all they have to do is dangle something in front of them, and they'll immediately jump on that thing.
Right, right.
So when you say, why are we so easily affected? It's because we've been starved so long that all you need to do is give me just a little bit of something that I've desired as I've been peering through the window of society, that as soon as I dangle this thing, you know I'm Johnny on the spot. There's a reason that our rap artists, our Kanye's, our Diddy's, whoever, will actually sell their soul because they have been starved so long that it doesn't matter who gives it to them.
Now, let me add, I'm going to add a piece there that I have been working on, which is the genetic trauma. Okay. That has been passed down. So cells remember things genetically, right?
True.
The information gets passed from cell to cell unless you reprogram the RNA, DNA with different vibrations and actions.
Right.
The foods that blacks ate in slavery because that's all they could eat is now sensationalized. But I think it's keeping blacks in trauma because the genetic cells are remembering the sadness of the reason why they had to eat these particular foods. We try to remember as this is what my grandmother cooked. This is what, but they are. But if you trace it back, the only reason why it was passed down is because this is what it was taught. Just like beating the child was taught by the slave owner to reprehend the child. Black communities beat their childs more than anybody.
Yeah.
Not because corporate punishment's bad or good, it's because this is the trait.
Yeah.
So if you take those genetic structures that has been passed on down with your starvation theory, so many blacks are stuck in this confined construct that this is why they stuck in trauma. Does that?
Yeah. So definitely epigenetics comes into play.
Right.
It's coded in your DNA.
Right.
In addition, when you're in utero, in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
if mom is stressed,
yes,
because the environment, or the spaces that society only allows her to be in is overwhelming to her mind,
mm-hmm.
Then the cortisol levels that's excreted in the body, that now also, goes into the child. So now you have DNA structure,
mm-hmm.
and you have a flooding of negative chemicals that child is being, dumped on.
Yes.
Continually. And so the reality is when they come out, they already come out with mental health concerns.
Already. And we're not having gotten into the nature nurture. We're not even talking about that yet.
Nope.
Real quick.
The pathways are laid.
Real quick, Miss Leah, hold on. I know people are probably going to watch this. It is flying way over your head. You know what? I don't care right now. And I'll tell you why. Because it is up to you to ask the damn question. I want all of you to say, what are you talking about? Because only then you're able to absorb. And there's so many people like, well, I don't get it, I don't understand it, I'm out. But yet, using the starvation, you listen to that music and there you go drooling for it. And you don't even have a clue why it's pulling you. But yet, it's controlling you.
Yeah.
I want people to ask, Leah, Miss Mim, like how and the why, and can you explain more? Yes, but you got to ask us. You got to ask Miss Mills. You got to say, how can I? What could I do? All these things, because by the time we get to you, you are so shattered. And we have to let you know that you're worth it before the glue can even stick genetically, emotionally. You have to know that you're worth it, and you are. You're an amazing group of people. These black people are amazing, and you're worth it, and you deserve it. But you got to ask. You got to be ready to do the work. I want to put that in there because I know people will be like, I just don't understand what they're talking about. Epigenetics and RNA and DNA and does it matter if they get it now or later? Does it, Miss?
So I would say that it does matter because it's life or death, right?
Right.
It is the ongoing, It's the passing down of traits. It's the passing down of behaviors, right? You talked about the black family and what we eat or the spankings. Well, that's not the term that we use. We call it whooping, right?
We call it a whooping.
Right. You about to get beat.
Right.
So it's looking at, what it is that we do. Most times we don't know ourselves. We don't know why.
Right.
And when trauma resonates in the body, like it lives there, as you said, it will manifest itself, or it'll come out without your permission. Like, it doesn't ask you, hey, can I show up today and cause damage in your family?
No.
That's not what trauma does. What trauma does is it has so much power and control that it takes over who you are and what you do and how you think, right? You can't make sound decisions if you don't deal with your trauma. Why? Because the emotional part of your brain is where the trauma is stored. And so the emotions stop you from being able to think clearly. It stops you.
It just freezes you. And then I teach things about the brain science and the neuroscience and where it freezes you and how it freezes you and how to unlock and all that stuff. And I have to break it down between the different brain hemispheres and the different brain ducts and the line. And I do that, and I did that in segments probably for the first 8 weeks, called the brain science of emotional health. Because I wanted people to understand, like, you're not taking things in here, but you're surviving back into the old part of your brain. And how I want you to use that transfer to the frontal lobe and the hemispheres and know what the hypothalamus is. All those things are important. If you don't know, people know more about their dishwashers and cars. And this pisses me off more than anything. You got these guys, people, they care more about the car they drive, how clean it is, what's in the interior, and they don't know nothing about their brain, their body, or their spirituality.
But why? I would argue, right?
Yeah.
That whatever is put before you that's of value,
Right.
that's what you will actually attend to.
Yeah.
So even in science, even in the medical industry, we sever the brain from the body.
We sure do.
Mental health and physical health. We're all one being.
That's right.
Right? The
Right.
mind controls the body. So who severed it?
They did.
Because why?
Because
there was a hope that we wouldn't think
Yep.
that they would be able to control the body. So if I remove your brain,
Right.
media, and I think for you,
Mhm.
media, music, whatever sorts of, avenues, right? And I think for you, then I know that your body will follow.
Yes.
So when you ask the question,
Mhm.
why do we find ourselves being corralled into one space and just kind of following like little sheep? Is because science separated the value of your ability to think.
Of the whole.
Of the whole. There you go.
My sister, I know you're a light worker. You're a shine, you're a light worker in darkness. I know it. And I like to do these shows to let people know there's people out there digging in the caverns to shine light to get you out. To get you out. And you've been digging. You've been shining light in dark spaces, and thank you.
You're very welcome. Some people are purposed.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I do, I believe, is divine work.
Mm.
And, the Lord has allowed for me to, I say that I can navigate in all types of waters because I've had exposure to it, whether it was my own personal experience or whether it was me working in a professional space. And so I often am transparent about different aspects of my life because I don't want people to get caught up in, she's just this professional. She went to college, so she thinks, no. I lived a whole lot of what it is that I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But I made a choice and a decision to begin to get honest. And I often tell my clients, therapy does not work. You don't want to call it therapy? Kicking it with me, talking to me will never work if you're not honest with your reality. And so, people are, well, I don't know. Yeah, you do know.
Yeah, you do
and I don't
know.
let people tell me I don't know.
Yeah, because you do know.
Because you know. Now, you might not feel comfortable in saying what you know.
Or you might not
right?
understand what you know.
Yeah, and you may not have the language
Yeah.
as trauma does.
Right.
Trauma doesn't give us language.
No.
Trauma gives us feeling, right? Trauma gives us action, but it never assigns a term or words to what it is that we find ourselves feeling and doing often. But that's kind of the purpose of talking to somebody, is having someone to help lead, guide, steer, and direct you into your discovery process. And so if you are not at the table, you know what I'm saying? If you're not there and you're not actively engaged in the process, then again, mind control, right? If you're not there, they will do it for you. And you will show up when they want you to. You'll be out there buying toilet paper and you got stacks in your home. You'll be out there buying Lysol. You have cupboards full.
You'll be out there buying on Black Friday for I'll stop. That's it. That's I'll stop. I'll stop because my dad was already a Black Panther. They're already looking at me. They're already saying come on, he's talking too much. So I keep talking.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta know who protects you.
That's right. My dear sister, I'm going to let you go. I want to say thank you so much. I will talk to you sooner than later. Thank you, Miss Leah Mills. We will do this again because we have to do this again, because we will do this again. And God bless. And thank you so much for being the light work, and keep digging.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, and I do appreciate all the good work that you're doing for our people.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And everyone, thank you for listening to Bridges Live. And I'm Dr. Paul, and you listen to Leah Mills. We were talking about what you can do, and don't be afraid of what you think you don't understand. Thank you. Everybody have a good night.